On the show, in Wheelspin, we ride the latest addition to the Indian Chief range of motorcycles, the Dark Horse. In Wheelspin, we have a look at some of the biggest, meanest motorcycles in the Indian market. In Face to Face, we meet Gavin Hartley, the manager of Bespoke Design at Rolls Royce. Quicker presents the Quicker Car Guide. And in Going in Style, we visit the Mercedes-Benz Museum in Stuttgart. What I have with me today is an addition to the Indian Chief range of motorcycles in India. And who else is it coming from but Indian motorcycles? So far you could have bought the Indian Chief in three trims: the Chieftain, the Classic and the Vintage. And this one here is the new edition, as I said, and it's called the Dark Horse. So what do you get different? It's obvious, isn't it? Number one, the color job here. This is in matte black, unlike other motorcycles which are more colorful, comes in red, white, silver, but no. This has got a dull matte finish, and that is the biggest distinguishing thing. Secondly, the styling change. Now this has got a long handle which is pulled back, and this is styled more like a cruiser to give you ease of riding for hours. Overall, the motorcycle looks pretty much the same as the other Indian Chief motorcycles. What you still get is very much an Indian motorcycle, big and beautiful. If big is what you like, then the Indian motorcycle is exactly what should be prescribed. And this new variant of the Indian is just that. In fact, in terms of dimensions, it's identical to its siblings, the Chieftain, the Vintage and the Classic. And so is the motor that's strapped to the chassis. But like the rest of the family, this one too has a huge street presence. In terms of the powertrain and the mechanicals, there is no difference between this one and the rest of the Indian Chief motorcycles. She is powered by the same 1811cc engine. But having said that, let me reiterate that like most other Indian Chief motorcycles, this one too is very refined, and she belts out plenty of torque and power. In fact, the power delivery is linear, and she comes across as a very refined machine. So once you start riding on the highway, you really enjoy the ride, and the gearbox slots in quite well. The major difference it has with other Indian Chief motorcycles is the fact that she is much lighter than the rest of the range. In fact, she is 23 kilos lighter than the Classic and about 30 kilos lighter than the Chieftain. And that adds to the nice power to weight ratio. In fact, the handles also help make the ride more enjoyable because they're easy to grab, they're a little pulled back, and it gives you a very nice, easy riding posture. In spite of her size, I have to say that this one is a very easy machine to ride, even if you're caught in city traffic. The single-port instrumentation fitted on top of the gas tank in true cruiser style might look simple, but it contains all the info that comes in handy, like gear indicators, digital tacho, fuel gauge, efficiency and the fuel range. The rear seats that you see here on this bike is actually an extra that you will be required to pay for, and so might be the saddlebags in case you need one. The Dark Horse variant here essentially remains another Indian motorcycle under the skin. No changes there. However, she differs in terms of the styling and of course the positioning. And whether you like it or not, I leave that to you. But what may add to your liking this is the fact that she is the cheapest in the Indian Chief range. She costs about 2.5 lakhs less than the next one, the Classic, and about 10 lakhs cheaper than the Chieftain. Indian Chief Dark Horse is priced at rupees 21.99 lakhs ex-showroom Delhi, making it the cheapest in the Indian Chief range, while the top of the line, the Chieftain, is priced at over rupees 32 lakhs. If you thought Indian roads were only clogged with smaller capacity commuter bikes, then it's time to think again. Because now the Indian motorcycle market in the last few years has really changed. And here we have a look at some of the biggest, meanest and of course the most expensive motorcycles on sale in India today. First on the list is the biggest production motorcycle on planet Earth. And this comes from the iconic British motorcycle manufacturer Triumph. And this one is aptly called the Rocket. Powered by a 2.3-litre inline 3-cylinder engine, this is something which many motorcycle buffs dream of. Big, mean and extremely powerful, this is sold in India with a price tag of around rupees 22 lakhs ex-showroom New Delhi, which is relatively modest as compared to the rest of the gang it mixes with. But make no mistake, the Rocket is fast and drips with oodles of road presence. And if you think the Rocket is really big, then have a look at this one. The Indian Chieftain from legendary American motorcycle manufacturer Indian. The Chieftain is powered by an 1811cc motor and garnished with plenty of chrome and leather saddlebags to give it a formidable road presence. And the Indian Chieftain rides well too. Indian Motorcycles sells here 4 variants of the Indian Chief: the Chieftain, the Vintage, the Classic and the Dark Horse. While in terms of engine, the chassis and basic measurements, they are all identical, but where they vary is in terms of styling and of course the price as well. The Chieftain, which is the top of the range, comes with added features like a slide down front windscreen, and it is priced at around rupees 32 lakh. If we talk big motorcycles, then how can we forget the most popular brand of them all, the Harley-Davidson? Forget about the Fat Boy and the Road King. Harley now offers in India the big daddy of them all, the CVO Limited, priced at a hopping rupees 50 lakhs. And she does look mean and big. The CVO 2 is a typical Harley with plenty of chrome and looks that defines the brand. But at this price, she is definitely the most expensive of them all. And just in case you don't like the big fat cruiser style motorcycles and yet you want to ride something very exclusive, then we have this for you, the Almost Range Topper. And we say almost because Kawasaki is still not selling the H2R here, but they did manage to bring the next best thing, which is the H2 Ninja, a bike which is sure to put a big smile on your face the moment you twist the throttle. The H2 Ninja is fast, agile and of course the second fastest Ninja, and it looks beautiful too. And at a price tag of rupees 29 lakhs, the H2 is certainly on top of the superbike pyramid in terms of the pricing too. And now that we have given you a list of the most drool-inducing two-wheel machines, it's time for you maybe to reach for your checkbook and visit the nearest showroom. But before you do that, make sure you have enough balance in your account, because these are also the most expensive motorcycles.
Design philosophy is always moving forward. We don't want to be static. So in terms of where we've come from in recent years, we've I guess re-established the Rolls Royce brand in terms of the stake in the ground that was the Phantom back in 2003. And I guess since then we've been looking at developing the direction of that brand, which is firmly grounded in our, epic history, I guess you could say, but also mindful of the fact that we've got to appeal to current customers and customers of the future. In terms of a philosophy, I think what you've seen already is set to continue, really. I mean, we've seen the car develop in the different models that we offer under the Rolls Royce banner, such that some owners are happy to sit in the back, some owners prefer to get behind the wheel and drive the car. And I think we're definitely recognising that with the Dawn in particular. And so I guess that sort of thing is going to continue as well, where we're going to have to balance that different requirement as to where the customer wishes to sit. In terms of the character of the car, then I think it's one where we're moving to a more contemporary point, whereby we're looking at different treatment of materials now, and I think that will continue through. In the future, I can see us, using different materials, because I think there's some great materials out there, and that stake in the ground has already been put in the way of the Serenity car that we did quite recently, whereby there's a lot more, fabulous silk in that car than we would ever have imagined, some years ago. I think there's enough bandwidth in the appeal of the cars as they are. I think there's also enough exclusivity in the product as well, so you don't see a lot of Rolls Royces, so there's always going to be that limiting factor there, which means that it doesn't become too prolific. Well, I think first of all, I wouldn't call it an SUV, which kind of is not really where I would see a Rolls Royce product being. Okay, it's got some characteristics of other SUVs, I guess, in terms of the sort of high ride height, some of the things that you would be looking for there. But utility, okay, that's not necessarily a sports utility vehicle. I don't think it's what we would be describing it as.
If you are in Stuttgart, one of the things that I strongly recommend that you do is visit the building behind me. This 34-meter high building is the Mercedes-Benz Museum, and I'm told what it houses is a brief history of the Mercedes-Benz brand. And when I say brief, you must remember that Mercedes-Benz is a 125-year-old company. So what you get to see inside is also the first car, which was called Mercedes, plus of course the latest and all the things that they have achieved in motorsports. Time for me to have a look. The museum here is an imposing structure which uses over 16,500 square meters of space spread over 7 floors to display what Mercedes has achieved over all these years, and more importantly to register for posterity the milestones of the 129 years of the journey since the first motor car made its appearance. And of course, even then Mercedes was in the thick of things, with both Daimler and Benz being the inventors. And as you walk into the museum, you will get a view of the humble beginnings of the word motor car, and also the first engine that was made by Daimler. This is a single-cylinder engine which was actually mounted on a frame to make the first motor car. And what you will also see here are two of the first cars that are made, a four-wheeler made by Daimler and Maybach, and the second one, a three-wheeler made by Carl Benz. These two were the world's first automobile, and the year was 1886. And what you see there is actually an original, although this one is a replica. After nearly 25 years of steady progress in the automotive world, Things came to an abrupt stop as World War I broke out in 1914. While one Henry Ford across the Atlantic continued to develop his cars, the Europeans had by then shifted production to feed the war machinery. Post the war, the economy was so bad that Daimler was forced to make bicycles, and Carl Benz made sewing machines. But as they say, every cloud has a silver lining, and the lining was in this case the coming together of Daimler and Benz.
It was in 1926 that Daimler and Benz got together. The reason was simple. The world was shattered by World War I. An economic reason was the main reason why they bonded together. And of course, the outcome was spectacular. Between 1926 and 1930, they produced some of the world's best automobiles.
While the SSK was developed as a full-blown race car, the 500K was a car which thrilled with its looks and performance as well, as this was one of the first cars to use a compressor to boost engine performance. And this was easily one of the most gorgeous cars to have come out of the Mercedes factory ever. Currently, this car is valued at around 6 million euros, and the best part is that even after close to 90 years, both these cars are ready to be driven.
If you look at history, you will realize that there wasn't anything called Mercedes-Benz before the year 1926, and there wasn't anything either called Mercedes before the year 1902. Daimler and Benz were working separately, but it was the dealer of Daimler in Nice and Vienna who entered a car in the race, and the car won the race, and he decided to name the car after his daughter, Mercedes. And this is the first Mercedes, and this is how it was born, and this in fact is the original car. And this here is the oldest surviving Mercedes-Benz in the world. This I call is what is the most recognizable Mercedes probably ever made. The 300 SL Coupe, made between 1954 and 1957. And there are a lot of innovations in the car, like gull-wing doors, direct gasoline injection supplied by Bosch. And the reason why it has gull-wing doors is because innovation was called for. This was sitting on a tubular space frame, and the regular frame could have supported the weight of proper doors. But the tubular frame couldn't have, hence the gull-wing doors. And this is really a great thing that happened to this car, because it made it so very different and so very attractive. Talk about vintage and classic cars costing the earth. Well, then you haven't really heard what this one cost. This is the 300 SLR. Only two were built for racing and only two exist in the world. And guess how much is this car valued at? A staggering 60 million euros. Yes, you heard me right.
Mercedes might have made a short stopover in the motorsport pit lanes, but between 1952 and 1955 it became a formidable force with drivers like Manuel Fangio at the wheels. Winning races became a habit, and the pinnacle was winning the grueling Pan Americana in 1955.
Silver Arrows was a very dominant name in motorsports in the 1950s. The car you see behind me, a 300 SL, was the winner of the Pan Americana in 1955. A 5-day race covering over 3,000 kilometers. And you see bars on the windscreen, and there's a reason for this. On the very first day of the race, a huge vulture hit the windscreen and damaged it. So innovation came into play, and bars were put in to prevent such further incidents.
If motor racing was what got Mercedes the attention, then Hollywood and celebrities couldn't have been far away. Princess Diana broke the rule only to be reprimanded by the Queen for opting for a German car over a British one. But before her, Ringo Starr of the Beatles owned one, which was one of the first AMG badged, and the royalty and the head of states were not too far away either. And at times the Mercedes 3-star was replaced by the personal coat of arms of the royalty. Mercedes even developed an armored vehicle for use by their celebrity clients.
Had a rather nice date with the Mercedes-Benz car. So next time you are in Stuttgart, do drop in at the museum here and you will see some very nice cars and some very historical ones.